All right, this is a good conversation, and I like good conversations. So I got up out of bed just to address this. And I don't think you and I are going to come to an agreement because you will never get me to agree that government can never work to improve people's lives and gain progress on problems. But I will tell you that assuming that a government is going to solve society's ills was never the goal. No one can solve society's ills entirely for everyone across the entirety of the United States. Jesus, even in the Bible, said the poor will always be with you. But that did not mean that we are not responsible for doing what we can to ease suffering. And that is why I said to you, which you did not address, that progressives believe that we should have a government that tries to ease the suffering of those with the least power. Comfort the afflicted and afflict the comfortable, because they are doing just damn fine. And it's the people who are afflicted who need the help. And you still didn't answer if it is true that you have never used a government service in your entire life, Jason. Because this whole thing about somebody else wanting to get free stuff, excuse me, agro-businesses get subsidies, huge subsidies, to grow things that we don't even need, like tons of soy and tons of corn that gets turned into the high fructose syrup. Some of these words I haven't used in a while, but the bad sugar. We don't need that shit. We have so much corn that we're feeding it to cows when it's bad for them. And it makes them sick. And then we pump them with hormones and steroids because we make them sick because of the subsidies that we give to these farmers. And if you also want to talk about corporate welfare, who was it that bailed out the banks when the credit default swaps poisoned our entire economy? The too big to fail. Do you not remember that? Were you not around then? Maybe you weren't. So if you weren't, let me just gently remind you that this has been something that has been in the making for quite a long time. Because ever since Richard Nixon was forced to resign because he was caught intentionally trying to break the law, and he had the gall to say things like, when the president does it, it's not illegal. Conservatives who believed in his regressive beliefs around everyone who wasn't like him, the quiet majority or the silent majority, I forget what they called it, which was all the nice white middle class people who were getting put upon by all these mean woke Browns, because that's exactly what it was that he used to get elected. And when that failed because of his inherent criminality, it became their mission that they held close to their breasts and nurtured their resentment over the course of decades to get back at the left. And if you doubt me, look at what Roger Stone has said. Look at what Steve Bannon has said. Do you think these people came out of a fucking egg? No, they came out of anger. Anger with some nebulous someone out there who they are blaming for everything that makes them feel put upon. So they're looking at the people who have the least power in society. Because I'm going to tell you something. Progressives don't have any damn power at all. We're always ignored. We're always treated like we're naive and uninformed. Meanwhile, we're the most educated people out there. We have tried to show you guys how when you get what you want, you will suffer. You will hate it. And instead of hearing us, you have then turned around and blamed us for the problem of you not listening. So you tell me, Jason, how are those assholes entitled to corporate welfare, but everybody else has to have cold, hard, pull yourself up by your bootstraps capitalism? Because if you had been born in a different place, just like Nick Hanauer said, you'd be some dude selling fruit by the side of the road without shoes. Because it's not just what you can do. It's what you've been given. And let me point out something else, mister. Unless you actually are living in a castle with an independent army that you can call on for every need you have, you are using resources. You are using the fire department. You are using the police department. You are using the National Park Service. You are using public education. You are using the toll roads created by the government. You are using the interstate system. You are using the national and public libraries. You are using government resources, man. And you think it's okay for you, right? Because what, you earned it? Did you earn interstate roads? No, it was just given to you as a part of being in America. And what you do in exchange for that is you pay your effing taxes. And you stop blaming the least of us for the problems created by those with the most power. And yeah, I get very passionate about this because, dude, yeah, you're pointing to the right problem, but you have got the absolute backwards, upside down, wrong solution. Seriously. Now, I'm going to guess that you're a libertarian. And every single libertarian that I've heard from treats this like an academic exercise. It's not. It's not an academic exercise. And you making grand pronouncements about who deserves help and who doesn't says more about you than it does about them. And I'm glad to be talking to you about this, but I also want you to stop thinking of this as somebody else's problem. Because you're an American citizen too. And you should care about your fellow travelers on this planet. Even if you're not religious, you should have a moral standard that says that those of us who have the most owe the most to our society. And those who have the least should not have the same level of burden. Because they didn't freaking ask to be born in a project. It's just what life gave them. And they're doing the best they can. And by the way, you never answered the question. Are you an anti-vaxxer? Because this whole thing about not trusting government agencies, that used to be a total progressive bag, by the way. You have the wrong reason not to trust them too. Government can do good things if it is regulated, if the watchdogs are empowered to watch over the people in society who are too powerful to just be allowed to do whatever they want. Grow up. You're on the chopping block too. You're not protected. They're coming for anyone who isn't like them. You are not some independent entity on an island. You are going to be affected by this change to the authoritarian impulses of MAGA, just like all the rest of us. Don't be self-congratulatory. Do your research. Look into what the hell it is that they're proposing and prepare instead of worrying about who's getting what.